I would like to acknowledge the cultural custodians of the land on which you're watching from and pay my respects to your elders past and present. I'd also like to acknowledge my own ancestors and those family members who've passed through my lifetime. My name is Rosalie Neve. I'm a family historian and cultural knowledge guardian from the beautiful Bellinger Valley in the mid-north coastal hinterland in New South Wales on the lower east coast of Australia. Cultural knowledge that we're gifted from our older family members and others may be broad and cover a number of values, or it may be specific to a single aspect of our cultural society. Either way, it contributes to our understanding of the world and our place in it. It assists in the formation of our core values and influences our relationships, not only with people, but also with the entire world around us. There are many published resources from those who have articulated this concept very eloquently. Today, instead, I would like to share with you my story, my own personal experience with oral family history collection and transmission, how it's guided my life to date, and how I have seen that initial body of cultural knowledge I had received from my father, passed to him by his grandmother and great-grandmother, grow as it spread out throughout my wider family, my community, and others. My father taught his 4 daughters many things as we grew, along with walking, talking, interacting with others, swimming, fishing, horse riding, farming practices, and how to drive a car. He also passed on cultural practices around management of country you have responsibility for, including respectful utilisation of resources and fire management. There was for each one of us a specific focus of cultural knowledge from Dad that we were charged with. For me, it was our oral family history, the family of his maternal grandmother, the woman who raised him. It started with his parents and continued through her descendants and those of her 7 known siblings in turn, all the way down to me and others in my generation. This teaching and learning started when it was my turn to help my father with the daily morning or evening milking of our dairy herd as a young primary school student. The method he used to help me increase my memory and focus was to teach me Banjo Patterson's Australian bush ballad, The Man from Snowy River, at the same time. These 2 location pictures on this slide are of Gloucester, where my father was born and raised, and Bellingen, where I was born and raised, which is just under 300 kilometres to the north. My father spoke fondly and often of his place of origin. There were many things he would tell us he could say more about if we were in Gloucester. He never got to take us there as children because of the distance and work commitments, and so it continues to amaze me, and I will always be honoured that his maternal grandmother, my Granny Martin, made that journey alone by train and then by car to see me when I was a baby. She passed away in Gloucester just 6 weeks short of the birth of my next youngest sibling, born just 18 months after me. Since those early days of learning from my father, there have been many others who've contributed valuable information towards that oral family history and my cultural understandings of family and community. By the time I was in high school, I was already having conversations with our broader family of all backgrounds, community members and educators about oral family history and the limits of knowledge exchange across language barriers. I even joined an Esperanto class that ran at lunchtime in the high school library, hoping that a neutral, universal language could be used to nullify the power dynamics of a dominant language when it came to matters of cultural exchange. I grew up in a family that prioritised education to improve outcomes, not only for ourselves, but also for our wider family, our community, and the environment. We were encouraged to learn the language of the educators, legislators, and regulators, and to explore ways to make a difference in the direction things are heading. At one stage during my teenage years, my father showed the way on how to achieve change by joining the local volunteer bushfire brigade and took on the role of vice captain of the Boggy Creek-based group to enable him to continue to maintain his property through fire management and to influence the methods utilised on the properties within that section of the very heavily eucalypt timbered escarpment. During my journey, there have been a number of times when my focus or direction has shifted. One of the pivotal points I remember well was when I left my childhood behind me and became a young woman. My father had always told me he did not know the last verse of the Man from Snowy River poem. I found it in a book in the school library, learned it and taught it to my father. He smiled at me and told me it was my turn to be ready to teach those who came after me and to share with any lost members of our family who came looking for where they belonged. 3 of his own young first cousins that he babysat when they were preschoolers had been taken into state care when their mother died, and they were lost to our family and they were missed. As a young parent, I accompanied a group of high school Aboriginal students on a careers day. One of our speakers that day was Auntie Robin Bancroft, an Aboriginal archaeologist working in our local region. Her talk was for the younger students, but it motivated me to go back to university and study archaeology instead of biological science. That moment's guided my career and community involvement and advocacy for the more recent decades. More recently, I've focused my efforts on creating records that are as complete, accurate, and supported by a family as possible, and that the information is readily and freely available to all those of our family who wish to access it. How do we determine what's true, accurate, and complete? Well, in our case, we start with our family first. In my case, it starts with me and my descendants. After that, we move the discussion to the next level, all the known descendants of my parents. As descendants of my father, we are just one of the branches of his grandmother's line, which is only one of the known 6 lines of descent of her parents. That is the final level of discussion, and any decision on what to share, how, where, and when comes from that group level. Around a decade ago, I was approached to review the wording proposed by Gloucestershire Council for a tribute plaque to Jack Cook, Jessie Brummie and their descendants. The time frame to do that was unrealistically short. One of our younger family members proposed we use a private Facebook page to share the proposed wording and workshop family recommended changes to enable an appropriate and timely family-supported response. That Facebook page still exists, and when I took that screenshot of it last week for this presentation, our membership was 374. The plaque unveiling in Billabong Park in Gloucester was the first, but now not the only, time that we as a collective family group determined what was immortalised about us. There is always a danger when you release any oral information that the way it is recorded will be misleading or, even worse, blatantly wrong. It was for that reason members of our family were very targeted and precise in what they wanted recorded, word for word. While the written word has its place, it was only part of the memorial that was established that day. 9 years ago, yesterday, the 25th of June, the tree you see to the right of the slide was planted by elder representatives of our male Cook branches, the descendants of the brothers of my father's grandmother. The tree was selected by the family because it represents the 3 trees that our ancestor Jack Cook planted in the location where he and Jessie first raised their children. There are times when our own family and community knowledge does not have the technical expertise or the legislative or regulatory authority to achieve our aspirations around protecting particularly tangible cultural heritage. These are the times when we need to identify our allies and form collaborative partnerships. This slide represents 3 examples of our ongoing partnership with the National Parks and Wildlife Service in New South Wales and their associated government agencies over the decades. The image to the right is of the graves of Jack Cook and others buried near Barrington that we've been involved in the protection of for many years. The 3 Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Values Assessments that we've undertaken in collaboration with Insight Heritage for 3 of the areas managed by national parks within our family's area of origin had members of our family involved in those assessments in all stages of the report writing and review. And the last example depicted above is of the second of the cultural burns undertaken on the Barrington Tops in partnership with New South Wales National Parks and Wildlife Service and the New South Wales Department's Saving Our Species initiative in recent years to encourage flowering of the vulnerable veined double-tailed orchid. Our corporation, on behalf of our wider family group, was registered with ORIC the year following our plaque unveiling in Gloucester. The purpose of registration was to provide a recognised and supported contact point for any communication by our Cook family with others. Our corporation's day-to-day business is undertaken by our 6 directors, 1 from each of the known lines of descent from Jack Cook and Jessie Brummie. Other relevant collaborative partnerships include the 2 shown above. The first was with Groundswell Gloucester, a local residents advocacy group concerned over the potential impacts the proposed Rocky Hill Mine and Haulage Road would have on both society and the local environment. This collaboration saw the rejection of the mining proposal by the Planning Authority in New South Wales on many grounds, including cultural impacts and climate change concerns. The example on the right is from one of the many articles written about the ruling in favour of Native Title Services Corporation and Scott Franks of the Plains Clan of the Wonnarua against Dungog Shire Council's assumption that native title had been extinguished over Crown land, now referred to as the Patterson Sports Fields, because of an historical land grant. So, where to from here? I put this question to my descendants through an online message chat group we use to keep us connected, and I'd like to share the response I received from my eldest granddaughter, now a mother herself. We will continue to work with the current landowners or managers of our cultural heritage to ensure its ongoing protection and appropriate management and maintenance. We will continue to share orally our family stories with our descendants and utilise modern technologies to do that and to record video and audio where appropriate. We will continue to organise events that enable family members to meet on country, to speak and experience those things that are unique to and belong to there. We will provide opportunities for our next generations in all lines to prepare for their turn as our family workers, organisers and elders. Thank you.